Aloha and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Got Your Six podcast. This six-question podcast brings together high performers to share their methods, strategies, and ideas, delivered in an informative and, most importantly, actionable way that'll help you lead yourself and those around you from the battlefield to the boardroom. Coming to you every episode, I'm your host, Tony Nash. And into the breach.
Nothing mentioned on this podcast is an endorsement or opinion of the Department of Defense.
I got your six, we got your back. Got your six, we got your back. Got your six, we got your back. I got your six.
All right, Sixers. Today is an absolutely special episode. Drew Mayville, the Special Operations Equipment Product Manager from Beaverfit North America, is here. Drew is an absolute true American in all the sense. We're going to dive into his bio right now, but a great friend. We've known each other, going on almost 2 decades. We go way back. But Drew Mayville is United States Army Special Operations veteran, leader, and tactical trainer. Like I said, he's the product manager over at Beaverfit North America for their Special Operations Division, which is a veteran-owned firm manufacturing supplies, functional and tactical training equipment to the military, first responders, athletic clubs, and universities. If you've seen the Tricons around, that's a Beaverfit box, and they are just absolutely built to withstand anything you throw at them. Drew is passionate about building successful teams using innovative techniques and leadership skills he's learned in multiple tours in combat. You see Drew a lot especially on LinkedIn, where he regularly honors fallen soldiers and comrades and shares the latest news when it comes to Beaverfit. Drew actually recently just transitioned out less than a year ago from the military. He supports the Green Beret Foundation and the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. He obtained his bachelor's degree in 2010 with me at the United States Military Academy at West Point. Like his dad and older brother, he joined the U.S. Army, where he served for more than a decade as a Red Leg, a fire support officer, a platoon leader, and then later going SF as attachment commander with 7th Special Forces Group, and has deployed to Afghanistan and El Salvador. Drew, welcome on to the show, brother.
Yes, man, that was a very, very nice intro. Made me sound a lot cooler than I am.
This is the same Drew Mayville that I've seen on back of horsebacks, just looking like he came off of that, what was that movie, 12 Horses, when they first invaded Afghanistan?
12 Strong?
12 Strong, yeah.
Yeah. It's a little cringy, but
they all are. For the most part. There's a handful that are good, but it's still like,
we got to take a page out of the Navy SEALs book on how to get it right in Hollywood. But yeah, man, I appreciate you not adding barely graduated out of West Point. More realistic.
What's really cool about a diploma, man, is it doesn't ever say where in the class you graduated. It just says that you completed it, just like any other military school or whatever.
100%. I don't think there's enough white space on the diploma to put how many digits I was in the in the class ranking. But
nobody ever remembers that, man. It's about the time. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what matters. So recently transitioning out of active duty service, what do you say is one skill or ability or talent that you're currently working on, now that you're kind of slightly hung up your boots?
Yeah. So one of the skills that I'm working on right now is less about the professional world and more about the, my personal life. And that's living more in the moment. And that's something that I learned through this whole transition out of active duty. It's been a kind of a crazy year. I lucked out and landed a really sweet job. As you said, at Beaverfit, veteran owned and operated, one of the best teams I've ever been on. I know it's rockier for some people, but if I'm being completely honest, there was some pretty dark times with that whole transition thing. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is value today, and live more in the present and not for the weekends like I used to. I mean, you only get so many Mondays, right? People complain about Mondays, but hey, bro, you only get fucking a finite amount of Mondays and then you're done.
Right.
So, I've got a great job. I'm still playing Green Beret on the weekends. I've got, still on an ODA, which is awesome. I live now in where I consider paradise, St. Pete, Florida, working remote, getting to travel, pretty often. So, yeah, I'm just soaking it all in and, enjoying my time and really being present. I think that's something I've learned just recently over the last year.
And that's such a wonderful thing to like be so self-aware of, that you're not living for like something in the future, but you're content
Right.
with what's going on in the moment. What do you use to kind of like ground you, or like kind of bring you back if you stray away from like living too far forward or too far behind?
Yeah, well, you know where it started from was being at West Point, especially like your plebe year, where you get like one pass or something.
Right.
You know, I was a double century man, so like I never got passed. But you get like one thing to look forward to.
So let's talk. Sorry to interrupt, but talk what. So a century man, what is that? Or
yeah.
person?
So we'll say, you know, West Point is they've got their own set of rules, right? Yeah. Some of them are a little archaic and outdated or whatever. But to keep saying, I broke a lot of West Point rules. And, you know, the thing about West Point is as long as you don't lie about it, you can survive anything.
Yeah.
So I never broke the law, but I broke West Point, you know, Hogwarts made up rules. So you earn, I guess, walking tours, or you just, you know, you put on your Civil War looking uniform and you grab a rifle and you march hours up and down. That eats up your weekend.
Yeah. And it just sits on your shoulder and just you're walking.
Yep.
Pounding the pavement.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how I spent most of my Saturdays.
Okay.
But but when I didn't, you know, you get fixated on things at West Point, and like, you know, we're all guilty of it. It's like, hey, in 6 weeks we get this or that, like spring break, or like we get to take that one pass. You build it up in your head, and like it's all you think about, and you sometimes get blinders and you miss a lot of the cool things that are going on. Now, granted, at West Point there were not a lot of cool things going on day to day, but you know, that's where that habit came from. And then the military is the same thing. You know, I mean, we don't have the bases in like the coolest locations unless you're teenage and get to go to Hawaii. Right. I was at Fort Drum. You know,
we were there together.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's where it all started. You know, Fort Sill before that, where we were there together as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, you're always looking for like, hey, what's next? And then, you know, when you get out of West Point, it's like, oh, my buddy's getting married. So it's like, this wedding's going to be awesome. And like, there's really, you're looking forward to, you know, all the stuff that's yet to come, sort of missing out on the day to day. So I was kind of doing that around here when I moved to Florida. You know, it's still like, oh man, this event is coming up, that event's coming up. I'm looking forward to deployment next year, or training or traveling. It's like, dude, chill out. There's so much shit going on around you. Like, enjoy where you're at right now, you know, at this time.
Yeah. And that's so cool. It kind of like, it took coming out of the military for you to kind of realize that when you like reflected back on your time, because not only have, like we said in the, you know, when we opened, did you go to West Point? You've been in the Army for a long time, but you were raised in the military, like with your dad and his military service. Yeah. So what has been one thing that you, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, wasn't your grandfather also in as well?
Yes, both of them. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. My mom's dad was a class of 60 at West Point, and then my dad's dad was a field artillery officer turned Green Beret. So got a little bit of, me and my brother both were, you know, redlegs, as you said, started out in field artillery and then went SF, and then you know, we went to West Point. So those are two things we share with both of our grandfathers. That's so
cool to like have that lineage go back so far, and that like same
cool
shared like common values, and like you know, it's all like, obviously everybody has their own like different experiences and stuff, but would you say there's like one thing that you've kind of implemented, not only from like just being in the military, but like being raised in the military, that you kind of implement daily?
Absolutely. And ironically enough, it's this like semblance of like a regimented schedule. So, you know, while I lacked so much discipline at West Point, what I find today as an adult as I get older is I actually need a general flow and schedule of things. It doesn't have to be super tight, but and it's not because I'm disciplined. It's because I think I'm lazy by nature. So I'm a guy who has checklists. I'm a guy who, you know, I still get up early. I still PT. I have this sort of daily routine that I need on my Monday through Friday, just to keep me active and to keep me kind of on the, you know, productive side of things. That's something that's carried over. You know, it's not super strict, but it's definitely that alarm goes off, and that's the first, you know, firefight of the day. It's like, get up, feet on the ground, get the fuck out of bed. Boom. And like, I work from home, so there's really no rush, but it's like, all right, motherfucker, you need to go run, right? You need to take the dog out. You need to, you know, get on emails, get all that stuff done, working for a West Coast team, and I've got a team in the UK, you know, so there's some time difference battles, and it's just making the most of that time. So I do have this kind of set schedule throughout the work day, and it just keeps me disciplined, especially working from home, working remote. That's something new for me. I've always had a team room or, you know, a platoon room or something to go to, but now it's like I'm by myself. I didn't know how I'd be, and, you know, just that whatever little bit of discipline I kept from West Point, from the military, it hung with me, and it's made it a lot easier.
Yeah. You said the first firefight of the day is when the alarm goes off. And I absolutely love that, because it's true. Like, that's your first decision. You like, all right, how do I want to approach this day? What am I going in? Am I going to go in and like really kind of attack it and be mindful, like you said, or is it going to be like, I'm going to give it 5 more minutes before I'm ready? Like, when you're in combat, you don't have time to be like, hey, can you guys just give us like 10 minutes before we kind of like do this? We're not ready.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, I wake up in the morning, and I'm just like, all right, motherfucker, what excuses do you have today? You know, and then it's that battle. Sometimes it's easy, you know, sometimes it's harder, but like getting up and getting going is the first thing, and that really sets the tempo and tone for the day. Because then it's like, all right, I got to go run the dog, right? I've got a Rhodesian Ridgeback, and he's got a lot of energy. He needs the exercise, and I do too. So then we'll, you know, go for a run, and it's so much easier. It's like, well, you're already up, so you might as well go run, right?
Yeah.
All right, and then you ran. So it's like, all right, you have some coffee, you're already up, you already ran, like, hey, let's knock out some emails. All right, cool. You know, and then that all just carries itself throughout the day. And then the afternoon, you know, because it could be a slippery slope the other way. Then the afternoon, you're like, all right, well, I got up and ran. You know, I had a good breakfast. I've been productive. I might as well round out the day with a good lift. And then you lift, right? But all of that could be the inverse if you're like, you know, you didn't get up. And this is kind of how my mind works. I didn't get up on time. So like, oh, well, I don't really have time to run. Let me get right to work. And then it's like, oh, I should go drag myself to the gym. It's like, well, what? I mean, chalk this day up as a loss. Man, I have those days. You know, it's like, well, I mean, what's the point? You know? So yeah, it all starts with getting up out of bed and then having a general flow to the day. A general flow that, and I say general and a flow, you know, it's not to be a set schedule, because you need to be able to adapt and, you know, adjust and pivot when need be.
Yeah. And then also, like, you embrace that white space, right? So sometimes it is good to just have like nothing going on, you know, and you can kind of think and like process.
And it goes back to like living in the moment or whatever, and like enjoying the present and, you know, enjoying where I'm at. So it's like, all right, man, I've got a lull in the day or something like that. I can call one of my teammates, talk through some stuff, but I'm going to do it outside with the dog. Take the dog for a walk here in sunny Florida. Go down by the water, you know, things like that. Yeah.
And then as a leader, right, you're able to see like that grander vision, because everything's not a knife fight, right? You're able to kind of like look out beyond the horizon.
Yeah.
And then,
I mean, you're ready for it. You're almost taking a step back and seeing the big picture, which is important. You know, I still head up a team at Beaver Fit, and making decisions and giving them some guidance and supporting them where I can, and being able to separate myself a little bit because I'm prepared for the day.
Right.
You know, and I see the big picture, makes it, I owe it to them, you know?
Yeah. And now, like you said, like you not only have an ODA that you're still responsible for, you have a team at Beaver Fit that you're responsible for. And that's just been within the last year. So let's look back like the last 5 years, right? What has been like a new belief or behavior that has really kind of improved your life and allowed you to continue that momentum forward to get to where you are today and then where you want to go in the future?
Yeah. This started actually as I was transitioning. So it's probably, you know, it started probably 2 years out from transitioning. And then it's really taken roots this last year. And it's just learning to like prioritize myself. So, you know, in the military, you know, I still have a leg in with, you know, 20th group, but in the military, it's all about selfless service, and it has to be volunteer force. You know, you walk into an ODA a team room before you even, you know anybody's name. You're like, I'll die for you. I'll die for you. I'll die for you. I'll die for you. You got, you know, duty, honor, country, briefs well. It doesn't necessarily translate into the civilian world. You have to kind of switch over to almost a mercenary mindset, because money's not everything, but it is a thing. You got to start looking out for numero uno, which is a kind of a foreign concept to us in the military, you know, but that's just how the civilian world works. Now, again, I work for a company veteran owned and operated. So a lot of those values are still there. So there's a lot of, shared beliefs, and it wasn't a complete drastic, 180. But yeah, you really got to just, build your estate and look out for your own interests, because you don't have this giant, powerful, big green army machine doing it for you. Definitely be proud of where you came from, that how you served, and that those values of duty, honor, country, or the army values, they don't disappear. Appreciate them, but you have to adapt new values, and it really starts with making yourself the center of gravity.
Yeah.
And then add to that, as if you get married, have kids, whatever the case may be. But really, you got to take a hard look at what you want in life and go get it. It starts with accepting that, like, hey, you're the priority for however long you need to be the priority through this transition.
Right. No, that's what we learned at West Point, right? During with servant leadership. But you're not in an airplane if there's God forbid there's an emergency. The oxygen mask, and it's not like, hey, go around and put everybody else's oxygen masks on first. Like, you have to take care of yourself first before you can lead, even think to lead others.
Absolutely.
That's a great point.
And it rings true. Like, I'm glad I started thinking about that early, and I didn't come up with that on my own. Guys that leaned into that would already transitioned out gave me that advice. But my last day at 7th group, I'm up there, signed out. I already have the beard going and shaking hands and saying goodbye and telling stories, and then all of a sudden it's just like they all look at their watch, like, oh, we got a command and staff meeting, or like, I got to go to a range, like, oh, see you later. Yeah. And then you're just like, well, that's it, huh? Like, that's the way it has to be. It's designed to be that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are, and from a private to a general, whatever, that thing keeps on turning and keeps on moving forward with or without you. Yeah. Like, thanks for your service, but see you later. Mm-hmm. So, had I not been thinking about already prioritizing myself and, looking at what's next and looking out for numero uno, like I said, like, that might have hit me a little bit differently, but I totally accept it. It's the way it has to be.
Yeah. And you've talked a lot about different influences to kind of that have gotten to you to who is Drew Mayville. Well, has there been like a book or a course or like, I don't know, someone that has really like greatly influenced your life to like allow you to see like that super leadership, like the Army is going to keep rolling along at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But taking care of yourself, and not specifically that instance, but like, that has really greatly influenced you to become the leader that you are.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people say this, but I'd have to actually say Ranger School. And the reason I say that, sure, I've done harder things,
right?
But that was the first hard thing I did coming out of West Point, as an artillery officer, where you don't have to go and not really expected to go and whatnot. But it was the first hard thing I did. And, as a cadet, and my dad was in the Ranger Regiment and all that stuff. It's like, oh, that's so unattainable because, I'm just me.
Yeah.
And then I just put myself out there, and I, successfully completed it. And I learned a lot of lessons about myself and leadership. But really what it did, was it gave me this confidence to put myself out there more and try to serve at the highest capacity I could.
Sure.
And I don't think I would have gone to, Special Forces selection had I not done Ranger School. It just made things seem more achievable, and it gave me the confidence I needed moving forward in my career.
Yeah, no, I Ranger School is such a crucible moment that like even the farther you get away, you can always go back to it and say like, hey, I did this, right? With whatever's in front of me, I did this, and I have that momentum, just like you said, when you wake up in the morning, right? You get up and you're going, and you use that momentum you've already built to propel you forward, right? You never look at like, I went to Ranger School, I can't do this. Like, that never comes out of anybody's mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, whether it's subconscious or just, it's blatant, but like once you have a Ranger tab, people expect more from you. Right. And then, you can carry that onto yourself as well. So it's like, motherfucker, I have a Ranger. Get the fuck out of bed, dude. You know what I mean? So that's where it all started, though.
Right. And so you touched about like Ranger School really being that first time you put yourself out there. Like, it wasn't like, you suffered like some failure and setbacks at West Point and elsewhere along, but it was really that time where you jump and you don't know what the fuck's going to happen. What failure would you look at has ultimately led to your greatest success?
I think that, I've never had really one giant success. I have a bunch of micro successes and a lot of my failures, maybe some macro failures. But, for the purpose of this conversation, one of the things I wanted to share, and I was hoping we'd get to it, was that a lesson I learned that stemmed from failure. And it just this one line that I heard, at the end of it all, really carried me forward. And I think it led to some of those smaller successes. At least gave me the right mindset in a lot of situations. And it was during SFAS, which is Special Forces Assessment and Selection. It was the last week, which is our team week, which people have probably seen on documentaries or whatnot, or experienced themselves. For a variety of reasons, I think that's the most crucial week of selection. It's the one that makes the most sense. A lot of the other things are check the box and whatnot. This is taking a bunch of strangers, making them work together and see how they work on a team, which is really just the backbone and DNA of special forces, small unit tactics. So really what they do is they throw a bunch of candidates together and they, give them collective tasks, which are going to be physically and mentally demanding. And for example, they're going to give you a bunch of like pipes and ropes and like 3 tires that aren't the same size and one's flat. And they're like, hey, you have to move these sandbags or, water cans, this insane distance and through this terrible terrain, make it happen. And build these like, apparatuses and whatnot to get it done. Yeah. I was fortunate enough to have a really good team. We were crushing it. We were coming in first or second on every event, and we were kind of getting a big head about things. And then towards the end, there was one event. I just had dudes that could build things. I think I had some kid who graduated from like MIT as an 18 X-ray now, and he was just getting shit done. Wow. But then we had this. The last event or second to last event was 2 telephone poles, these giant telephone poles and some ropes. And we had to carry them a certain distance. And we spent so much time wrapping the ropes around it and trying to make good grips and, trying to make it easy. We were doing all this shit to make it easy so we could get done faster. And, we just couldn't do anything that made it easier. And then, the bickering happens and then the arguing happens and then people are getting hurt and complaining and then, just feeling sorry for ourselves. So we went from, being like first and second and everything to coming in hours after the sun gets down, like we are dead last. The cadre there are pissed at us and all this stuff. So, we try to hot wash it, do an AAR and again, more bickering and blaming and everyone's just, in a shitty mood. Talking about like how we weren't working together, blah blah blah, whatever. But one of our classmates, so I won't name because he's still an operational Green Beret. One of our classmates just calmly waits his turn to talk, and then he just says, "Hey, look, here's the issue. We spent so much time and effort to make it easier when what we should have done was just accepted that this shit is going to be fucking hard. We just get it done anyway." So our failures weren't that we couldn't move the thing. We could have just carried it, right? It would have been painful. We could have just carried it and got it done. We put so much emphasis on the failures of not being able to make it easier. And that's where, our downfall was as a team. And that's just something that stuck with me for years. And I thought it was a really powerful and brilliant thing to say. And it, I think it was received well. I think we maybe had one more day of events and guys definitely had taken that to heart and just worked on, gutting it out. Sometimes you just got to put your head down and keep fucking rucking,
Yeah. I'm blown away. I'm to the point of almost being speechless, which isn't really good for a podcast. White noise is never a good thing, right? But that is just so inspirational, motivational, and just like that's raw shit, man. Like
it's an easy one to remember too. It's short and sweet, and it's just so applicable to so many different things. I think it's good to look for, think outside the box and, work smarter, not harder, all that shit. Sometimes you just got to fucking get it done and it's going to suck. And as soon as you can get over the fact that it's going to suck, I think, the quicker you're going to get to the end.
Yeah. You're almost like you said, you brace for it. Like, this is going to suck. Yeah. And now that I'm thinking about it, I've gone through, we've all gone through shit in life, but like when you acknowledge up front, you're like, yeah, this is going to kick me right in the fucking mouth. And you know what? There's no 2 ways about it. Like, I can't make this any easier. I'm just going to have to go right into the breach and take it, right in the face.
100%. Yeah.
No, that's incredible. I absolutely love that. And that's something I'm going to put on the board behind me, because I think that is just it's just a great reminder every day. Like,
it's just so in your face, and it's the truth. It's like, hey man, you're going to taste blood on this one. It's like, fucking bring it on. Let's do it.
Right. Absolutely. And that's a great, so then going through all these things and having these micro wins, you're stacking the wins, right? We even have a part on the show at the end where people write in and they like stack their wins, right? Even no matter how small, like, a job promotion, or I did, I graduated here, or I was able to do this thing where I pushed myself and the wall moved a little bit forward, where I've now become a little bit better of a person. How are you better than yesterday?
Yeah. I think I'm better than yesterday because, I know there's always a tomorrow. And what I mean by that is, there's always a tomorrow until there's not, right?
Right.
So it doesn't really matter what happened yesterday, because you could have failed or you could have been wildly successful. That one's fucking over. That round's left the chamber. That play is over. On to the next play, right? That's something I'm always telling myself. That one's over, on to the next play. And that's, applicable in combat, or, if you missed a workout because you're hungover, or you fucked up a presentation at work, or maybe you crushed all those things. It's over regardless. So just knowing that, like, all right, cool. How can I salvage the day? Like that slippery slope I talk about, like getting out of bed and missing, your run, you get up late. It's like, all right, can you drag your ass to the gym and try to, salvage the day, at least get a workout in. You missed it. You fucked up everything else. And if not, just understand and accept it. Hey, that one's over. I'm going to crush it tomorrow. Yeah. So I'm a bit of an optimist when it comes to that. But I just think that, like, the psychological effects of letting things build and compound on each other is like, that leads to bad habits. So being able to forget, learn from it, but don't dwell on it. Forget what happened yesterday, good and bad, and just focus on the present. And then just know tomorrow's coming and I can do better tomorrow.
You are a maestro. You tied it all the way back to the very beginning of being in the present. Like, I know how you did that, and you strung me along the entire time. It was absolutely
at West Point, right?
Absolutely perfect. Drew, people want to reach out. Where are they going? How are they going to connect with you, find you? What's the best way?
I mean, I'm on, I don't have any social media. I'm on LinkedIn for, business stuff. You can find me at Drew Mayville. If you got any questions, always reach out. I'm pretty responsive on there. Other than that, I don't have any like Instagram or Facebook or anything. Never really been my thing, but I mean, I don't mind talking to anybody, especially guys interested in selection or Ranger School or all that stuff. But really what I'd love to do is help people getting out of the military. I mean, I can only share one perspective and aspect, whether you're transitioning to the reserves or the National Guard, or if you're just, going cold turkey. It's different for everybody and can be hard. So, I mean, I love to, share my kind of journey on that with anyone interested, kind of the do's and don'ts and things I messed up, job interviews I fucked up, or, things I did well, mentally fighting for stuff. But I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, and that's about it.
Yeah,
email.
That's great. Drew Mayville, the consummate servant leader. Drew, thank you so much for sharing your story, your insights, your vulnerability,
pleasure, man.
And at the end of the day, thank you so much for having our six. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Hell yeah.
I don't know what you've been told, Sixers, but the lawyers would like us to remind you that the views, opinions, and comments expressed on the Got Your Six podcast are solely those of the hosts or guests, to include current and previous Department of Defense employees, and should in no way be considered the opinions of or endorsements on behalf of the Department of Defense or any of its components, divisions, contractors, or other current and previous staff members.